Welcome back to the Everyday Saint. This week we are touring America's Cathedral, which is the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, located in Washington, D.C. This shrine is absolutely stunning with its mosaics. There's over 80 chapels and oratories all throughout the shrine. We're just going to see a couple of the highlights of these different oratories so that when you go and visit yourself, you can go and pray at various images of Our Lady, different chapels dedicated to various devotions. Truly, there is a devotion here for every person to come and visit, to pray with, and to reflect with. I'm so excited for you to see this beauty, so let's go.
So this is the Founders Chapel. Bishop Thomas Shahan was the first director of the Basilica. He was the fourth rector of Catholic University. And in 1913, he applied to Pope Pius X for permission to build this great national shrine to our Blessed Mother. And Pius X not only approved the application, he submitted his own personal contribution. And so he loved the idea so much that he actually helped to donate. And so Bishop Shahan is the only person who's actually buried in the Basilica. So here is Pius X. As I mentioned before, he was the one that Bishop Shahan requested permission from to build this shrine. The end of this level is the Crypt church, which is really the heart of our sacramental and prayer life here. There's a confessional chapel that hears 5 hours of confessions daily, and then the Crypt church has 4 masses daily. The upper church is used for bigger masses and for the Sunday masses. So solemnities and special events, any big pilgrimage masses of various dioceses that come, those are usually in the upper church, but our day-to-day, daily mass, morning mass is held in the crypt. This here is really cool. This is some exhibits from some of the more recent popes. We've been visited by Pope John Paul II, by Pope Benedict XVI, and by Pope Francis. So these were the ambo that was used by Pope Francis in 2015, a replica of the pastoral staff, the Paul VI pastoral staff used by Pope Francis, and then the chair that Pope Francis sat in. When Pope Francis was here in 2015, he celebrated Mass outside, just on the steps here. 25,000 people were outside on the lawn, and that was the setting for this grand Mass. It was the first time a Pope has celebrated Mass here, and it was actually the canonization Mass of St. Junipero Serra, which was the first canonization held on U.S. soil. And then we have some relics here, St. John the 23rd and John Paul II as well as the zucchettos worn by each of those 3 popes I mentioned. This is the golden papal rose, which is a very rare honor that the Holy Fathers can give out. This was given as a gift by Pope Benedict XVI when he was here in 2008. So as a whole, the shrine has over 80 chapels and oratories. This is the Immaculate Heart of Mary Chapel. And so as you'll see, a lot of the chapels as well have an ethnic tie to them, but you'll see that throughout where an ethnic or immigrant group who has come to this country will usually gift a chapel like this or like so many other ones. It's a shrine to our Blessed Mother, but then there's so many different chapels that represent the different titles that Mary is known as throughout the world. This is the Byzantine Ruthenian Chapel. These are all mosaics. Almost all of the different art that you'll see here is mosaic. As a whole, the shrine is the largest collection of contemporary ecclesial art in the United States, which when we get upstairs, you won't be surprised to realize that. Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception is the patroness of the United States. So this is the patronal church of the United States as such, under that title of the Immaculate Conception. As we get into this part, sort of the Hall of American Saints. So as you see here, this is St. Catherine Drexel, Blessed Michael McGivney. This was just dedicated December 2023. And then this is another papal exhibit here on your right. So this is actually the papal tiara that was worn by Pope Paul VI at his coronation. It's the only papal tiara on exhibit outside of Rome. And below it is the stole that was worn by Pope John the 23rd, now St. John the 23rd, at the opening of the Second Vatican Council in 1962. This is St. Teresa of Calcutta. She has a very interesting connection with this shrine here. And it's interesting, before I referred to this as the Hall of American Saints, and we don't necessarily think of St. Teresa as an American, but she is an honorary American citizen. And for our personal connection, she visited the shrine 5 separate times throughout her life. This is Our Lady of Lavang. This is the Vietnamese chapel. And then if you look at the statue there of the Madonna and the child, that's unique because that statue is not made of colored marble or anything. That is all natural marble, the way those colors appear. So that was not colored or there were no alterations made to that. In the way that those different, as I said, naturally occurring marble and the gold leaf were fashioned together. Some of the most intricate stonework that you can do was involved going into this making of this statue. There's only 5 stone carvers in the world capable of that type of work. And then this mosaic over here represents the 118 martyrs of Vietnam. This is how sort of Our Lady appeared to the persecuted Christians in Vietnam. So this is Our Lady of Lavang. So this is the Crypt Church. As I said, it's kind of the lifeblood of the shrine. So adoration is Monday through Thursday, happens after the 8 a.m. Mass exposition, and then benedictions at 12 noon. And in there as well is the confessional chapel. And we hear 5 hours of confessions daily. Because we are a national shrine, we're not a parish church. Right. And so that means access to the Eucharist and to reconciliation are at the forefront of kind of the mission here. This is our Mother of Africa chapel. This piece here is kind of a timeline. It shows the moving history of the people of Africa and then becoming African Americans. So you see the slaves for sale moving kind of forward. And as we get forward here, we have a modern African American family, and they're stepping literally out of the history, out of the piece, into a more open future. As we move in here, this is Our Lady of Lourdes Chapel. And that was where, of course, the Blessed Mother appeared to Saint Bernadette. So as we sort of leave the Memorial Hall crypt level, we're going to go upstairs to the Great Upper Church. Actually in the centennial year right now, wrapping that up, of when the first Mass was celebrated. The first Mass was celebrated Easter Sunday, 1924, in what is now the Crypt Church. And so we're finishing up the centennial year. We've had year-long celebrations commemorating that. But the Upper Church was dedicated in 1959. So it's not as old as the crypt level. Construction was halted during the Great Depression and World War II, and then continued in the 1950s and was finished in 1959. Where we're standing right now is the base of the bell tower, the Knights Tower. The National Shrine is the 2nd tallest habitable building in DC. And then over here, this is the Mary Mother of Ireland Chapel. And there's you can see St. Patrick on this wall over here. So that's a map of Africa, and then St. Patrick, the patron, is there in the middle. The marble itself is actually from Ireland. This is the Italian chapel on your right, Our Lady of Pompeii, kind of off in the back here, off of the Great Upper Church, so it's very popular here. On the wall are the 5 luminous mysteries of the Rosary. You'll see the other mysteries of the Rosary when we get towards the front of the Upper Church in the apsis. This crucifix on the wall here, that was blessed by Pope Benedict XVI when he was here in 2008. On the wall here, on this end and then over here, there are 2 tympanas, Our Lady of the Korean Martyrs and Our Lady of Korea at Cana. So they were installed in 2007 as a celebration and tribute of the centennial of Korean immigration to the United States. So this is the Great Upper Church. It is the largest Catholic church in North America and one of the 10 largest churches in the world. It can comfortably seat over 3,500 people, all mosaic. I'll get into some figures kind of as we walk, but I'm not sure if I could put a number on the number of individual pieces of glass that are included across all of these mosaics. The Trinity Dome, which is the 1, 2, 3rd dome
Yes.
there, the big one, that has over 15 million pieces of glass in it. So if you're in the Pentecost Dome, the Descent of the Holy Spirit Dome, which is the 4th one right over the main altar we use there, that has 1.5 million pieces of glass. So as you stand here and look, the mosaic at the very end, that's Christ in Majesty. When the upper church was dedicated in 1959, that was the only interior ornamentation in the upper church. So everything that you see mosaic, other than the Christ in Majesty mosaic, has been added since that initial dedication.
Interesting.
And then, so as you're looking at the Christ in Majesty, each of these 5 domes that lead down to Christ in Majesty almost tells the story of what leads us to that Christ in Majesty. This is the Incarnation Dome. And so in the Incarnation Dome, you see 4 different events across the sides relating to the incarnation and the manifestation of Christ. The Annunciation on the far left, Nativity, the wedding feast at Cana on the right, and then right above us there is the Transfiguration. And then on the kind of the corners underneath there are 4 of the prophets that foretold the incarnation of Christ in the Old Testament. The second dome here, this is the Redemption Dome, so it tells the various stories of or redemptive acts of Christ. We have the temptation in the desert, the crucifixion, the descent into hell, and the resurrection. This is the Dominican Rosary Chapel, a gift of the Dominican order. Straight ahead, next to the Blessed Mother, is 15 tongues of fire. Those represent the 15 decades of the Dominican Rosary. And then on the dome, the corners of this particular dome are the beginning words of the Hail Mary from the Gospel of Luke. This is called the Universal Call to Holiness. It was dedicated in 1999 in conjunction with the anniversary of the dedication of the Upper Church. It's one of the largest bas-relief sculptures in the world, and it's based on Vatican II's document Lumen Gentium, which translates to Light of the Nations, calling ordinary people to pursue the path to holiness. It is 17 feet from top to bottom and 52 feet across. It was carved from a single piece of marble. Chapel straight across is to Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. I love the blue and the popping gold fixture from that altar in this chapel. And then each of the chapels on this level off to the side also have little miniature domes as well that are very ornate in the mosaic design as well. So this is the Chapel of Our Lady of Guadalupe. There's almost always many, many bouquets of flowers, vases of flowers here. You really feel like you're a part of it, with the mosaics on the side showing the various peoples of the Americas kind of coming all together. Because as you mentioned earlier, Our Lady of Guadalupe is patroness of the Americas. This is the Polish chapel, Our Lady of Częstochowa, and this was a chapel that John Paul II prayed in when he was here in 1979. And you can see the little mosaic of him. The art on the left and right wall are woven tapestries, some of the few works of art in the shrine that aren't mosaic. So in the dome itself, there's various saints with Polish connection. So as a whole, the Basilica, specifically the Upper Church, is a combination Byzantine and Roman in its architectural style. Byzantine in the domes and the rose windows. Roman in the arches. There's 2 organs in the Upper Church that can be played together. The other one is in the west chancel. You can't see it from where we're standing, but when we walk over to the other side, you'll be able to see that one. In the 2 organs, there are 9,300 pipes and 49 pontifical trumpets. So the trumpets are the ones that you can see sticking outward this way at the base. Those ones are incredibly loud when you're in the back or even standing on the gallery because they're pointed this way. Those trumpets are used in a really beautiful manner, sort of intoning the beginning of hymns, specifically processional hymns, where for our 12 noon solemn mass every Sunday, the procession leaves from the sacristy, which is up on the right there, walks all the way down this, and then turns just back there at the crossing there, and then walks all the way down the procession. So when you're processing with normal servers, cross and candles, a choir, which happens on the Sundays at 12 and other solemnities. And so the entrance hymn, processional hymns, usually are about 7 minutes. And so you need a little bit of organ improvisation at the beginning because the hymns aren't designed to be sung for 7 minutes. And so usually there's like a 2 to 2.5 minute intro, and the end of that intones the piece that you're about to sing, and that comes from those pontifical trumpets that stick out. I'll point you to the 2 mosaics on the sides here. This is the Last Judgment mosaic. There's 2 groups of people you can see, the group on the left and a group on the right. The group on the right is the saints that are already in heaven, led by the Blessed Mother in the blue robe at the top. On the left are those waiting for that final judgment, and then Christ in glory and majesty and power there in the center. And on the other side of, if we will, salvation history is the creation mosaic. So that's Adam and Eve in the center. On the left is the waters of the ocean, fish, and the birds of the air. And on the right are the animals of the land, prehistoric dinosaurs, modern animals, things of that sort. And then, as I mentioned before, that's the chancel organ. So both organs play together. During Mass, the organist will sit up there because he has a better view of the sanctuary and other liturgical elements that he's adjusting for on the fly. But they play together from a single console. But they can also be played separately. So for certain parts of the Mass, based on the liturgical minutiae of what the organist wants to get out of the liturgy. This happens particularly during the gospel acclamation. The introduction organ piece that he plays for that will just come from the back. And so as the Alleluia or the Praise to You, Lord Jesus Christ builds, the sound builds from back to front, and it fills the space. And so when you're sitting up there or in the front here, you hear it. It's loud. It's a huge organ. It's loud, but it starts quiet in the back. You hear it behind you, and then it builds up. The sound gets increased, and then when the cantor or the choir start, the first verse with the organ is both of them. They're full, and it surrounds you. Two mosaics here. The first is the Assumption. These two are signs of our status as a basilica. So this is an umbrellino, which is a fancy word for umbrella. It's down right now. It only gets it only gets put up when the Pope is here. The Immaculate Conception mosaic on your left. Pope Francis also prayed in front of this mosaic when he was here in 2015. This particular mosaic has 35,000 individually pieces of stone or glass. And then as we come to the apsis here, I want to point one thing out to you, which is the Holy Family. So if you stand right here before you kind of get blocked by the baldachin, you can see Mary over there on that one, St. Joseph here, and then obviously Christ there, where you get the Holy Family surrounding you when you are celebrating Mass. When you're standing at that altar and you look up, you are looking at the Blessed Mother, the Immaculate Conception, looking down on you. Baldachin is the statues that are at the very top. Those statues are of the early fathers of the Church. So on the east side, you have the Eastern Fathers, Athanasius, John Chrysostom, Basil, and Gregory. And on the west side, the Western Fathers, Augustine, Ambrose, Jerome, and Gregory the Great. So then each of these apses is dedicated, there's 5 chapels along the base. Each of these is to a various theme of the Rosary. These are the sorrowful mysteries, the joyful mysteries, and the glorious mysteries in the back. So St. Joseph is up there. On the bottom, because St. Joseph's the patron of workers, all of these common jobs of laborers are across the bottom. And then the mosaic on the right here, that's of the Second Vatican Council. So that's John the 23rd in the center, and then surrounding that are various participants of the Second Vatican Council. This oratory, Our Lady of Allotting, it's a German from Bavaria. It was dedicated in April of 2008 on the birthday of Joseph Ratzinger, Pope Benedict XVI. 3 days later, he became Benedict XVI and was elected Pope, and 3 years after it was dedicated to the day, he prayed right here. And this is the base of the Christ in Majesty mosaic, which you've seen throughout the upper church, but now it's right above you. And as I said before, the glorious mysteries of the Rosary are on each of the chapels that surround the base here. Within this mosaic of Christ in Majesty, there's 3 million pieces of Venetian glass. The face itself, without the hair, so between the hair, the face is 7 feet in diameter. The span of one hand is 5 feet. The gold dome there is the Pentecost dome, the tongues of fire coming down as the beginning of the church with Pentecost. The last dome, this blue one, is the Triumph of the Lamb dome from the 4th and 5th chapters of Revelation, which wrap up this path to Christ in Majesty on the domes that lead into, of course, the Christ in Majesty himself. Then in this west apsis, also from Revelation here with the serpent and Mary as well. So this is the Blessed Sacrament Chapel. The dome here in mosaic is some of the sacraments that you can see. There would be kind of like the Last Supper on the left, multiplying of the loaves and fishes on the right. And then coming over here, this would be baptism on that corner. And then this one right above me would be confirmation. Right above the tabernacle there with the Blessed Sacrament, you can see the sort of bronze leaves there that are falling. That represents the manna that falls from heaven in the desert during the book of Exodus.
Thank you so much for watching and for tuning in to the Everyday Saint Shrine Tour. You can check out almost 30 shrines tours all across the country on the Everyday Saint. Right now we are transitioning into doing some podcasts all about Pope St. John Paul II. So feel free to come back, check those out week after week, and learn more about this beloved Pope. Thanks again for watching, and God bless you.